So I think first major thing is digital overload. And I don't think, you know, we would be discussing about this thing and bring up digital overload in our conversation, even if we were talking 6 7 years back. But let's take for the last 3 years, uh, pandemic years, where our screen usage has gone up drastically, and it's including me. I mean, we were taught to see patients in person, sign patients prescription in person, and now I'm digitally signing it over, and completely everything just 360-degree change for me, right? So it's a digital overload, and it's the constant multitasking, the short attention spans because of this digital, like you can literally switch apps. We're not paying attention. So when we are not paying attention to something, that's the first step which takes away everything, right? Because human beings are creatures of attention. We have our brain section specifically for attention, which we just discussed when we started the podcast. And when you're not able to do that, that's your first reason why people are facing cognitive decline. And the sad part is they're not even aware about it, and they don't want to be aware about it. In fact, Dr. Khushboo, I don't know if you have seen this latest study. There is this nursery rhyme, or there is some kids song called as Cocomelon, and there was a study which was conducted. I can let you know the year of that study. It was, I think, 2022 maybe, and they have actually found out that kids who hear Cocomelon at a very early age, like while eating food, or I've seen my cousins doing that, kids as much as 2 years old are facing anger issues. There are very rare kids these days who are into reading a paper book, or there are hardly any games where they are doing something to problem solve. When we were growing up, there was Monopoly, and we used to spend that much time to play Monopoly and think about it, or do that word puzzle. I don't think these kids will even understand what a board game actually means. So the board game is also now on iPad, and Ludo is also on iPad. So lack of mental exercise has definitely taken over us completely, and especially the generation who's maybe like about 3-4 years before us. I think we would still love to paper read the books. I'm still not too much into Kindle. I like my paper books. But kids these days, they'll even talk, what paper book? You don't have an iPad? And that's how it goes. So
are you someone, or do you know someone in your family who feels that they forget a lot of things and a lot of times, and they think that it is completely normal to do that? Do you feel as if there is a cloud in your head and you're not able to think clearly, or you don't feel fresh in the morning when you wake up? If you have said yes to any of these questions, then this episode is for you. Today, we have Dr. Trishala Chopra, who is a functional medicine practitioner, talking about cognition. Cognition is a mental health function which focuses on a lot of different areas of our brain. It can be related to thinking, planning, regulating different emotions inside our brain, responding to certain events that happen in our life, memory issues, and it can be a lot of other things. So, in this episode, we deep dive into how dementia, Alzheimer's, and forgetting things is actually something which is diagnosed very frequently as memory loss or dementia, but it is actually very much reversible and solvable if you consult with the correct doctor, and if you are taking good precautions to prevent it as well. Brain on the Move podcast is a podcast which focuses on the brain and its various functions, and how what we do in our day-to-day life, what happens to us in our environment, and what we ourselves think or believe about our brain that can affect its function. We discuss common conditions like depression, anxiety, stress disorders, eating disorders, and we correlate it with how it actually happened and how we can take measurable actions to reverse it as well. So let's deep dive into this episode of Brain on the Move.
Fantastic one. And you won't believe, Khushboo, I literally put this out in the universe, and I was requesting help, and I believe a lot in manifestation. So I was just randomly chatting with a friend that, now I think I should get into podcast, and I'm looking for help. And this is not even like a month back that I asked this from the universe, and look where I am today. So I'm so grateful. Thanks to you. Thanks to Dr. Cheryl. And it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me over.
So last year when I started the podcast, my you say now that ideal guest who should be on your podcast. So for me, the ideal guest was a functional medicine practitioner, because that was one of the reason why I started the podcast. Because I got on Instagram and started following all the health people out there. So I got to know that there is a whole area of functional medicine that works on
Yeah,
your lifestyle and your diet, nutrition, your
yeah,
other aspects of lifestyle to help with a lot of autoimmune conditions. That got me very interested, and this is the reason why I started the podcast, to like not just focus on medicine but focus on the other aspects which an individual can control. So this was an ideal guest for me. And last year I was searching a lot for a functional medicine practitioner, but I wasn't getting. But this year I was just like, anyone who I meet organically, I'll be inviting to the podcast. And organically I met you, and it was like ki, I mean, the stars aligned, and you just came and you messaged me and you called me. So it was the best feeling for me.
yeah. Oh my God, this feels good. And the whole reason I got into the functional medicine practice was I knew I didn't want to be another doctor who's just going to be prescribing medications. So about 10 years back, so I've always been practicing for about 10, 11 years now, and I've been through a personal journey myself in terms of weight or PCOS or skin health. So I could relate to most of the population, what they were talking to me, right? So I thought that there has to be something different. And that's when I shifted my entire approach, went ahead, did a lot of courses which we were not taught in our med school. So I don't think, honestly, Dr. Khushboo, that I'm using anything that I was taught in my med school apart from learning anatomy. I think except that and the physiology, I am not really using anything, but I'm using everything that I learned from my patients every day. And I always wanted to be on the other side. And that's when we don't have a lot many courses offered in India. So I stepped out and learned about it, started learning more from my patients, understanding what's actually going on with them. So it just worked, and I'm so happy. I see my happiest day is when I tell my patients, you don't need me anymore. So that's my favorite dialogue, because on the other side they are in tears, and I am so happy telling them that you don't need any other doctor. So I think this is what I worked for, and I'm so happy that I'm able to touch a lot of lives. I think a lot of work is yet to be done from both of us. So thank you for doing the podcast, because this is a very good way for the masses to hear what we are actually doing. So
Hmm.
social media is really helping. So thank you, Dr. Khushboo, for taking this initiative and getting Fitfully Yours running.
Thank you so much. And I, again, as you said, that not just another doctor. So that, reminds me of a conversation I had just today itself,
Yeah.
of how a patient had come to us for physiotherapy, and he was not finding results with us. Even after a month of 2 or 3 weeks of doing physiotherapy with us. So we referred him to an orthopedic, because we thought that we should uh, not misguide him, or we should not
Yeah.
keep hold him back, just to just to say कि okay आप wait करो इतने time के लिए आपको results मिल जाएंगे. We thought maybe what if there's something which we are missing, so let's refer him back to someone else. So once we did that, just today in the morning, he is sending us the photo of the prescription that the doctor has written, and the doctor has completely misdiagnosed his case, and he has, in fact, he has like given a completely alternate pathway to him to follow, which even the patient got confused what to do, which we never wanted. We just wanted that there should be a second opinion. So this is what I really want to prevent. I want that if someone is coming to a doctor, they should be completely guided by that person and not misguided at all, which is where I really admire your work. And as you said that if the patient doesn't need you or any other specialist, then that's the best thing for you.
Yeah, I think that's what we've taken our oath for, right? I mean, I was just speaking to a patient right before I got here, and the patient was telling me ki doctor gave me exactly 2 minutes, and every time I go to him, the only thing he does is he increases my insulin units. So I told him कि आपका आप इसमें एज अ डॉक्टर क्या कर रहे हो? ये तो मेरा वॉचमैन भी बोल सकता है that if my sugars are high, you have to increase the insulin. So I don't need to pay your fees and come to the doctor. So it I feel sad about it because this is not what we are here for. I think as doctors we do come with a lot of responsibility, and I completely agree with you. You know, there's so many patients, my way of treatment doesn't work for them, and it's okay. It not everybody who's in this world has to work my way. It's very important to have that doctor patient connect, and we need to be honest about it, about what we are doing, and accept it. There is no ego here. It's about patient's health. It's not about, oh, I'm such a good therapist. How did I not treat this? Or I'm such a good doctor, but the sugars are not coming down. It's not about us. I think the moment we remove this from our mind and just think about the patient who's suffering, everything aligns well, and then this happens. So sometimes even patients lose trust on the previous doctors who have actually referred. Maybe we don't know it, maybe the other doctors know it better, and that's a vicious cycle. Patients don't come.
Okay, so getting on the topic at that we met today to discuss,
Yeah,
cognition. So, what is cognition? If you could just break it down for us, and
yeah,
we can understand what are the different aspects of cognition, and why
yeah.
is it so important? Why is it the first thing which is always checked in a patient that come to us?
Yeah, I think we the term cognition. So some people might just listen to the word cognition and think कि ये podcast मेरे लिए नहीं है. This is some high level podcast which will not work for me. So I just want to break it down that cognition is something that is with us ever since we are born. Even when we were not sure about how to talk or what to talk, we still had this feeling in us. Okay, so it's for everybody who is a human being and alive on this planet Earth. So breaking it down further and not making it too complex for the people to understand, cognition is it's like a so just imagine your brain as a command center, okay, and with different sections, each there are things which are responsible for each. Okay, so let's break it down further. So the first one, that is decision making. We also call this, so it's prefrontal cortex for the medicos to understand, but for our layman population it's the CEO of decision making. So this part is where what helps us makes choices, plans, whether I should choose this color shirt or whether I should choose that color shirt. This is the part of our brain where it's responsible. So it's the CEO of decision making. Then we come down to temporal lobes, which is also memory and storytelling. So we remember basic things about what happened 5 years back. And we'll always have some memory, and our mind always has some story attached to it. So that's why when we talk to kids, we try to do it in a way where we are telling them a story, which helps them connect and remember about it. So everything surrounded by story really helps. So that's the second one. That's the temporal lobes. The third one is the parietal lobes, which is our body's detective. So these are the areas, we're very conscious when somebody is touching us, or what's going on, so we have another area where we pay attention and we know our surroundings. So even when I'm talking to you, I have the feeling what's going on, maybe, outside the house, or what is outside the window. This is which part which takes care. It's the parietal lobes, which is also your body's detective. Then the other one is occipital lobes, which is your visual wizard. So think about it like a personal movie projector. It shows you pictures and scenes from the world around you. So wherever we are traveling, wherever we are going for a vacation, we'll always remember that one place which looked beautiful. So it's like a projector which is going on in our mind, and occipital lobes is taking care of it. Then the other one is amygdala, which is also our fear protector. So uh, it's like you can sense the things which are scary. So when we are going to a forest, even if we don't see a tiger, we sometimes feel scared about it. This is the part of our brain which is taking care about it. And then it's the hypothalamus. It's the body's manager. So you can consider this as a thermostat of your body. So it takes care of, how thirsty you are, how hungry you are. Hormones, of course, take care of it too. But this is the brain part which tells you that, oh, you're thirsty, maybe pick up a glass of water, or maybe you're not hungry, or you should sleep, you're tired. This is the part of our brain which tells us this. And then there is feelings coordinator. So everything, there's so many things going on around in our brain. So we feel it. There has to be a coordination. So if somebody is shouting at me, I'm crying. This feelings coordinator is also taken care by the cingulate cortex. That's in a layman term, it's a feelings coordinator. And then there is basal ganglia, which is the habit helper. Okay. So it helps us to do things without thinking. So, like, once we have learned how to swim, the moment we get in the water, we start swimming. The moment we get on a bike, we know how to ride it. We don't plan, right? Oh, okay, I have to get on the bike in a certain way, start it in a certain way. No, it's just very impromptu. You get it and you're done. So basal ganglia, the habit helper, takes care of it. And then it's insular cortex, which is your inner emotion. It's your inner instinct. You know what is good, you know what is right. And it's said that, in girls, it's a lot more stronger. So maybe I feel it too, that it is stronger in girls more than men. So this is the area that takes care of it. And then the last one is our frontal pale, which is the creative thinking. So, sometimes we say we have a creative block and I'm not able to think about it. I'm having a brain fog, new ideas are not coming to me. So this is the area which takes care of it. So, this is the different parts of your brain which is talking to each other all the time, and they together make a team to form cognition. So cognition is not just a single word which we say, oh, it's something that we think about, right? No, it's not. It's so many things, and it's constantly happening. Even when you're sleeping, your subconscious mind is taking care of it. So it's all combined together, and that's what makes it as a cognition.
Wow, that's lovely. Actually, as a physiotherapist, I used to think of cognition as just the higher functions, which are the
Yes.
analytical functions, which are the
Yeah.
logical functions. But the way that you highlighted that even our emotional centers, our hypothalamus, which is the
Yeah.
thermostat of the body,
Yeah.
our basal ganglia, which is the habit helper, you said. So
Yes.
so all these are also a part of our cognition, and that was definitely something which I had never grouped together as such. I used to just think of them
Yeah.
as separate things. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely I can now see that there is a very big interlink connection between all of these centers. And I think the most interesting part which you highlighted was the hypothalamus, which is I think hypothalamus is also the
Yeah.
master hormone regulator which we have in our body. So
Yes.
I would really like to know more about that.
Yes, so uh, hypothalamus, and then we say pituitary gland. So it's our master gland, okay? And that's where everything is taken care. So हम third eye बोलते हैं, right? हम यहाँ बोलते हैं. So this is where your actual pituitary gland. So right behind this, your pituitary gland is, which is the master gland taking care of all your hormones. आपको भूख कब लगती है, आपको डर कब लगता है, when do you want to go to the washroom, when do you actually want to sleep, not sleep, every hormone is taken care by this. And just imagine, like I mentioned about hypothalamus is such a big role. And if somebody doesn't have a very good coordination, because you see a lot of patients with a lot of neuro issues, so you are coming from the place where you see this happening live in front of you. So because I come from the hormonal background, I mostly see when they're coming to me with blood reports, or when they are giving me symptoms like excessive hunger, or uh, there's some kind of mindless eating happening. So I'm seeing it once it's already done. But when you are dealing with patients like dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, you're first hand seeing the complete mismatch of this happening. And that's where the hypothalamus also takes a hit. And eventually, with age, it does start declining, which is also the reason why we say, that with age, many things change. भूख कम हो जाती है, नींद कम आती है, हम छोटी छोटी बातों पे क्रैंकी हो जाते हैं. सो वी कंपेयर सीनियर सिटीजन टू अ चाइल्ड, राइट? कि ये बच्चे जैसे बन जाते हैं. व्हाई डज दैट हैपन इज बिकॉज आवर हाइपोथैलेमस इज slowly dialing itself down. So whatever our body was constantly working throughout these years, eventually that goes on the decline. So that's another podcast to talk about what hormones and what glands do what. And it would be really interesting for us to cover that, Dr. Khushboo, because we both come from the place where you see something directly happening in front of your eyes, even when you're telling a patient to move or take a step. Some people might think कि उसमें क्या है, just पैर उठा लो और आप चल लोगे. But you exactly know that what it is for a patient with any neuro condition to take that step on their own. It's a very big achievement when that happens. And when they come to me, they say कि अरे पैर नहीं उठता है. So then I directly connected to the, okay, yeah, maybe there is some kind of nutrient deficiency, or maybe there is something off with the hypothalamus. But when we combine both of this podcast does let us know that everything indeed is actually connected.
Yes. So the point which you made about the slow decline over a period of time and the
Yeah.
hormones coming down. So all of that really makes sense now, because I have a lot of patients who are maybe bedridden for 1 or 2 months, and as a physiotherapist, we are always the last ones to be called. So
Sadly.
just today, I had a patient's father coming to the clinic to show her reports to me. And he said that he has tried everything in the sense that he has gone to an orthopedic, he has gone to an Ayurvedic practitioner, he has gone to multiple people. But his daughter, who is mentally retarded and 41 years old, is not able to walk. And when I checked her physical reports, everything seemed to be okay. MRI is
Yeah.
okay, the X-rays are okay. There is nothing as such wrong with the bones. But what I felt was that since 1 year he has been trying everything. So why physiotherapy is the last resort? Why not bring it in the on the first day itself, so that he never would have maybe gone through that whole 1 year of disability and 1 year of going through the whole hardship. So I was just thinking about that. And comparatively, when I see patients who have been bedridden for say 1 or 2 months, and when I go as a physio and I make them stand up, they are so reluctant to stand up, they are so reluctant to take one step in front of them. And I always wonder that they have been doing that since the last maybe 60, 65 years. So why now? Why is their mind getting blocked about taking the first step? So yeah, now this makes sense that being in bed, being bedridden all the time would have really brought down their levels of the hormonal levels. The neurons firing also would have come down to a very bad level, which is why now for their basal ganglia to fire, for them to initiate the steps, is becoming so difficult.
So also, Dr. Khushboo, if you don't use something, your body automatically stops doing expenditure on it. So now we are not on the trees climbing all the time, right? So we don't have our body functioning in a way कि हम बंदर की तरह लटक सकते हैं, which was possible. Our ancestors used to do that, okay? And even during the evolution stage, it was all good. We were doing it. But now, because we don't use them frequently, our body doesn't need to spend on it. So हम अभी पेड़ पे चलेंगे तो हम बंदर जैसे लटक नहीं सकते, because we have not been training that part. So your body is very smart, okay? So your body is taking care, your brain is taking care, all these sections are taking care what to fire when, and when for 60 days, if they are on the bed, that means that particular patient is not getting up, and that patient doesn't need the neurons to be fired in the same way that was happening about 60 days back, because she's not using it or he's not using it. So the body starts dialing down the function, the metabolism starts going down, because now the entire focus of the body is towards taking care of the heart, of the kidneys, which is taking the maximum pressure when somebody is going through any neurological condition or bedridden for any case. Okay, so it is something that our body is doing on purpose, because it is not the need of the hour. So that's where the physiotherapist, I think, should be the first point of contact when somebody is even talking about getting bedridden, because before the decline happens, it's almost like, the person is drowning. You can pull them back up instead of going all the way down and checking where the person is, because then the chances of finding the person is very difficult. But at least if you're giving the hand when they're on the top of the surface, it becomes a lot easy. I had a patient with Parkinson's, and she had uncontrolled blood sugars, and then she was bedridden, bed sores, and there was all eternal nutrition happening. And I just went to see her in person, and I asked her just one basic thing. Okay, she was not able to talk too well, but I made that connect with her to ask her what does she want to do. She said, I want to get up and go to the bathroom by myself. So it was the most painful moment for me, that this is something we take for granted, right? हमें अगर washroom use करना है, हम 2 मिनट में उठ के चले जाएंगे. It's not a very big deal. But that patient, out of every desire in life, is craving to get up and go to the washroom. I thought that this could have been maybe delayed. I'm not saying that it might not have happened, but the same process could have delayed with maybe doing frequent physiotherapy sessions, getting in touch with special physiotherapists. The main problem nowadays is also that the patients are not aware about that there are different physiotherapists for different fields, unless you're referred by a hospital or you're already affiliated with the hospital. Patients are not aware about. So I think we are lacking awareness also, that patients are taking the delayed step because उनको किसी ने बाद में बताया कि ये भी एक option उनके पास था, but by then it's already too late. So I think even working on awareness is something which is very, very important. And I keep seeing a lot of the work that you have done, Dr. Khushboo, and I think you're touching lives, and I really hope that a lot of people can get in touch with people like you to at least delay and work on whatever cognition is left with them. And that's what I pray for, and I hope so, fingers crossed.
Thank you so much. And how you said about going to the washroom, and that is like the Mount Everest for them. So
Yeah.
coming back to cognition, like how you said that it declines over a period of time. But nowadays a lot of young people, like it is really shocking to know that there are so many young people in their 30s also getting Parkinson's disease. And it's just very shocking to know that. And it's very disheartening also that, what are we really coming to as a generation. So, why is it happening now to more and more young people, and what we can do to help reduce that or prevent that from happening?
Yeah, and it's sad that you say that somebody in their 30s have been diagnosed with Parkinson's, and uh, I see doctors who forget what the patient is actually going through. And that's the first step. Okay. So people don't understand that forgetting small things is not normal. So, via this podcast, I just want to raise this awareness that if you're noticing that at a very early age, so I'm talking about the age group from what, 15-year-olds to maybe 40, 45, the working population group, if you are forgetting things, if you are unable to recollect what happened last night, it is something that you need to pay attention to. It is not something which is very normal, and it's not maybe it's not Parkinson's. I'm not saying that, but it might be like a basic step that you might need to take about what's going on. And it's very sad because I see young patients suffer from the cognitive decline more than I am seeing in elderlies. Okay, so this is something which is also a very concerning and an alarming thing for me, and I've seen it in so many cousins of mine, and they haven't even started living. So I think, Dr. Khushboo, that in the recent times, a lot of things have changed. So even if we talk about our childhoods, I think forget our parents, even our childhood, and now when we see kids, they're like, it's a two separate thing. That I think that I'm some 60, 70 years old and मुझे तो ये सब पता ही नहीं था. So it's good that they're getting smarter at a very early age, but it's coming with a lot of cost. So I think first major thing is digital overload. And I don't think we would be discussing about this thing and bring up digital overload in our conversation, even if we were talking 6 7 years back. But let's take for the last 3 years, uh, pandemic years, where our screen usage has gone up drastically, and it's including me. I mean, we were taught to see patients in person, sign patients prescription in person, and now I'm digitally signing it over, and completely everything just 360-degree changed for me, right? So it's a digital overload, and it's the constant multitasking, the short attention spans because of this digital, like you can literally switch apps. So while you're browsing on Instagram, you can easily check your WhatsApp messages, you can also reply to an email, you can also see what's going on Twitter. So this has reduced the attention span. So if we actually do the study that for how long at a stretch a person is on Instagram or any other social media, it will be less than a minute. So they will go on Instagram, they will scroll a bit, bored already in a minute, go back to another application, see what's going on. So this digital overload has definitely taken over our cognitive health because we're not paying attention. So when we are not paying attention to something, that's the first step which takes away everything, right? Because human beings are creatures of attention. We have our brain section specifically for attention, which we just discussed in the when we started the podcast. And when you're not able to do that, that's your first reason why people are facing cognitive decline. And the sad part is they're not even aware about it, and they don't want to be aware about it. In fact, Dr. Khushbu, I don't know if you have seen this latest study. There is this nursery rhyme, or there is some kids song called as Coco Melon, and there was a study which was conducted. I can let you know the year of that study. It was, I think, 2022, maybe. And they have actually found out that kids who hear cocoa melon at a very early age, like while eating food, or I've seen my cousins doing that, kids as much as 2 years old are facing anger issues.
Oh.
And they have gone back and they have clubbed it with the Coco Melon series, which actually came towards the end of 2020, where we all were in the lockdown. And all the pandemic babies who will almost be 2.5, 3 years old now are facing anger and aggression issues. So if you don't show it to them, they are literally throwing things around, and parents think that it's a tantrum. But no, their brain function has completely transformed in a way because they have been exposed to this kind of content very early in their life. So first big reason is definitely the digital overload, and I think we can talk about this for hours and hours, and we will not come to the end because it's so much. But that's one big reason. The second big reason is lack of mental exercise. So you as a doctor will understand, but the layman will be like, what is she talking? What mental exercise? अभी तक तो physical exercise बोलते थे, but now she's suddenly talking about mental exercise. But when we talk about mental exercising, you are a better expert here to guide about that. This is something which is very important for cognitive health. That is missing. So there are very rare kids these days who are into reading a paper book, or there are hardly any games where they are doing something to problem solve. When we were growing up, there was Monopoly, and we used to spend that much time to, play Monopoly and think about it or do that word puzzle. I don't think these kids will even understand what a board game actually means. So the board game is also now on iPad, and Ludo is also on iPad. So lack of mental exercise has definitely taken over us completely, and especially the generation who's maybe like about 3-4 years before us. I think we would still love to paper read the books. I'm still not too much into Kindle. I like my paper books. But kids these days, they'll even talk, what paper book? You don't have an iPad? And that's how it goes. So there's very less mental exercise happening, and you can shed some more light on this, Dr. Khushboo.
Yes, very less mental exercise plus the digital aspect of it as well. And
Yeah.
another thing that I would say is that our generation is getting so used to instant rewards. So if I am doing some task today, then I want the result and the reward immediately. For example, now if I am doing some kind of exercise today, so I want that if I am exercising my quadriceps today, then I want that my quadriceps should be strong today itself.
Yeah.
But no, that doesn't work. It's all a result of consistently doing something again and again and getting the result out of it, maybe a few months later, maybe a year later. So that is the whole thing. But people think, so there are so many programs के 6 हफ्ते में वजन कम कर दो.
For 6 weeks is even a lot. I think you can say 3 days, 1 week, wedding diet, lose weight, and that's a scam altogether. But also, this instant gratification
Yes.
is an instant result is also coming because of short attention span. So again, we could actually tie it back there that we don't have patience. खाना चाहिए, open Zomato, खाना अभी आधे घंटे में आपके घर पे पहुंच जाएगा. So we didn't think, what do I want to eat? We didn't get up. We didn't go to the kitchen. We didn't prep things up. We skipped all the 4 steps. So the place where we have to think and make our brain work, वो सब मिस हो गया. Directly fifth पे jump किया, चलो खाते हैं. And this is how everybody is living. Oh, I exercised today. I need to reward myself with a chocolate. Oh, there has to be instant gratification. I have to treat and pamper myself because patience is coming with short attention span because we're getting everything on the tips. And this is making it worse because we're getting more and more sedentary. So that's another epidemic. Obesity is another epidemic that जितना ये होता जा रहा है हम उतने sedentary होते जा रहे हैं. And because we're on the phone all the time, We are sleep deprived. So for us, we work till say 11 o'clock. Okay, your job requires you to work till 11 o'clock. Come back home, watch Netflix, and that's the way to relax. That's the way for the mind to calm down. Then scroll on Instagram till 3 a.m. And after 3 a.m., when your eyes refuse to stay awake, you will finally go to sleep. So, this is the way of people unwinding these days. And you are basically blocking your mind. So, to everybody listening to us, I would specifically highlight that watching Netflix or watching content or watching social media as a way to unwind at the end of the day is not helping your brain function better. In fact, it's on the other way around. So, we're specifically talking about the brain cognition hormones in this podcast, but everything else also takes over. So, sleep deprivation is something which is a real problem. You might feel that, oh, I slept for 8 hours. Now, I slept at 3, I woke up at 9, I still got my 8 hours of sleep. That's not how it works. Our body works on a rhythm. There is a reason why sun sets at a particular time, sun rises at a particular time, but we all are jet lagged in our own house. We are sleeping on some other country's sunset timing, waking up someone on some other country's sunset timing, and then we forget what actually happened. So a lot of cognitive decline is also coming because people have started considering watching content as a way to calm down. So there was the owner of Netflix. So he was on the TED talk, and he actually mentioned that my biggest competitor is not Amazon Prime. My biggest competitor is the human need for sleep. And that was so true that he's people sleep, and that's my problem. My problem is not that they will go and watch it on Amazon Prime. So imagine where the digital world has reached, and we as doctors, we are seeing the change in real time in our patients when they don't respond to a particular exercise. If somebody is not sleeping well, if somebody doesn't have that recovery at the end of the day, so you are doing the exercise with the patient, you're sending the patient back home and saying ki आप ये repeat करना और आप rest लेना. So for them the rest is, oh yeah, she's told me to rest now, sit at home and just simply scroll through Instagram, or maybe yeah, she told me to rest, let's order an ice cream because oh my god, she told me to rest. Okay, so they don't understand that recovery is important. You need to sleep. That sleep has to be in a particular way. So this is also something that which is definitely taking over. And then of course, with sleep deprivation, you're cranky when you wake up the next day, excessive caffeine intake, you're pretty much living on caffeine. Caffeine has a half life of 8 hours. So when I say half life, even after 8 hours, caffeine still circulates in your system, and it has the ability to block your melatonin, which is your sleep hormone. And because you've not slept well, you're constantly having the caffeine to keep you alive, and that's making you more jittery. It's making you more anxious. You want things like this, and when you're not able to get it, it's making things worse. So depression, anxiety, panic attacks, the cases of this have drastically gone up in the last 3 years. Eating disorders, anorexia, binge eating, starving. There are so many cases coming up, and now we are hearing that mental health is important, mental health matters, but we've gone too far. I think if we zoom a bit out of mental health matters, we have to see what is the root cause of this. Where is it actually arising from that we have to talk about mental health cases? Why are we reaching to that state where a person gets so terrible that there is nothing else left except committing a suicide, or not asking for help, not thinking about asking for help? Why so many rape cases are going up? Because people have stopped thinking. The reason why they have stopped thinking is because of all of these we discussed. So I think it's definitely important to take care of mental health, but it's equally important to take care of your brain health, to understand that issue is stemming from something. And if we work and educate and spread the awareness, I think maybe if not entire population, maybe at least 1% of the population suffering might start recovering, and you might see less cases of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, coming up in such young people. Because, I'm just telling this to our listeners that it breaks our heart to see them at this stage. So when we think that, oh my God, we're of the same age, but this person has such high sugars, this is reversible. This is something that can be protected. You could have been stopped. So, even we feel bad, and we don't feel very excited when a patient is coming in a miserable state. We equally feel bad about it, that when something can be prevented, why didn't we take the action first? And I think that's where all these things that, Dr. Khushboo, you have started helps, because we have to take a step back and do things at the back instead of doing it when it's in the full blown state.
Okay, so there were so many factual things that you just covered in the last 10 minutes. But one thing that maybe really stood out for me is that the same age people having such high sugars, having such high LDL cholesterols. So just I think 2 months back or something, a patient had come to me with shoulder pain, and I always have this habit that in the history I always ask what are the other comorbidities. We have to always take that into account, even if it's just a shoulder pain. We have to take it into account to ask the comorbidities. So I asked him about what are your vitamin D levels, what are your B12 levels, how is your blood sugar, how is your cholesterol. So surprisingly, he said, "Oh, nobody has ever asked me about blood sugar and cholesterol, but yeah, I do have excessive cholesterol, and I am taking medicines for that." And he was just 34 years old. He's 34 years old, and he's already on blood thinners. He's already on statin drugs. So I told him that, listen, you can't live like this. Blood thinners, recently only there was a study that prescribing aspirin like blood thinners actually causes more side effects, and it can lead to a hemorrhagic stroke in the future. So I really told him that you cannot live like this. You have to do something to reverse this whole thing. And shoulder pain is not just a consequence of poor posture or something which happened at work or some injury you had.
Yeah.
This shoulder pain that you are getting is actually because your other metabolic things are there, that you are on statin drugs. So statin drugs are said to cause reduced muscle mass. They are proven to have that body pain sort of an effect. So his shoulder pain was almost since 4 months, and it was not even a major shoulder pain, but he was still complaining that I'm having. So I had to like really sit and counsel him on that.
I'm so glad you did that, Dr. Khushbu, because I'm sure he was surprised that why is a physiotherapist asking me about the sugar and cholesterol, because this is something which a sugar doctor does. Or so we have sadly divided patients into different organs, and we have stopped seeing them like a whole, complete body. So I'm so glad I have practitioners who think like me, because when they come to me and I ask them about shoulder pain, था आपने फिजियोथेरेपिस्ट को दिखाया, ऐसे तो कोई पूछता नहीं है। बोला आप मेरे पास अपनी पूरी बॉडी लेके आ रहे हो ना, मैं आपका हार्ट अलग से निकल के उसमें प्रिस्क्रिप्शन लिख के तो आपको दे नहीं सकती। यू हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट everything is working in sync, because if your heart is not in sync, if you're constantly complaining about body pain or a certain kind of pain, you will give me an excuse that you will not be able to exercise. Because you were not able to exercise, your blood sugars are not under control. So everything is connected for us, and I think doctors should start doing कि मैं सिर्फ किडनी देखूंगा या मैं सिर्फ हार्ट देखूंगा. At least it takes a minute to just quickly ask about what a patient have been through, and then maybe I can understand that we are short of time, so we can send and refer to patients to the different specialists, because they're good at what they're doing. But at least make that a part of your history taking, and all the patients, all the people around, please make sure that you're giving a complete, clear, honest, transparent history to any of your doctors, be it a physiotherapist, be it a nutritionist, be it a personal trainer. everybody should be aware about the condition, so that if something goes wrong, at least if nothing else, we can recommend and refer you to a right person before it gets to worse. So I'm so glad that I have other people also doing it with me.
Yes, definitely. So I would really like to know if you have, successfully seen a patient of cognition affection, and how with functional medicine and lifestyle change you were able to guide them towards betterment.
So I will give you the examples of two people, one in the senior citizen, because we always keep saying this that एक बार एज हो जाती है तो इसको इतना reverse करना is not very simple. I think that's the biggest villain of our story. We'll always have a superhero and a bad guy, but we have both, right? So there are chances of both happening. Yes, we have learned it's going to be progressive, but I have seen things taking a U-turn or at least stopping over there. And the other one is of an example of a 28-year-old girl, where I have seen the cognitive decline improve. So let me talk about the senior citizen first. So he is an army officer, and he's now 78 years old, and he came to me when I was 70 years old. So when he came to me, he was on a lot of neuro drugs. He was taking about 80 units of insulin. He had diabetes, nephropathy, he had retinopathy, pretty much everything. Okay. So he just said, when he came to me, when my first consultation, I told him that, sir, first of all, you're coming from the army background. So a lot of respect. And I'm so happy and proud that I'm able to help somebody who's helping our country. So I will try my best to see what helps. And he said that, I'm so glad you said that, but बेटा मैं सिर्फ इतना चाहता हूँ कि मेरे जो ये गोल्डन ईयर्स है जिंदगी के, मुझे वो मेडिसिन खा खा के नहीं जीना है. एंड जब मैं इस धरती पे मेरा लास्ट डे हो, आई वांट टू रिमेम्बर माय किड्स. आई डोंट वांट टू फॉरगेट देम. And it was very painful for me to hear that. But if he was so determined to work on whatever he wants, then how can I give up? And because he was an army officer, it was very easy for me to get things done because of the discipline he had in his life. And I took the history. I understood what could be the problematic areas. I took an additional step, and I learned about what his triggers in life are. So what triggers him the most, what makes it very angry, what are the things he's forgetting. It's very important. There's always a pattern. A patient forgets particular things, and there's always a backstory of why that particular patient is forgetting. So if you have a patient forgetting names, probably early in their life they've had people pronouncing their names wrong, or all the time they have been, some, just say, my name is Trishala, right? So Trishala, Krishna, Krishi. So, this has always happened with me. And people forget names in their later stage of life if somebody has gone through this. Okay. This is one pattern that I have seen. And when he was in his full good state, he told me what his trigger points were. And I started working on breaking down those trigger points. And that was the key for me. So I literally spoke to his family. I told that this is what triggers him. Let's not do it, because being an army officer, he had certain rules and regulations. So if somebody is watching TV after 9 o'clock in the house, he used to lose his temper, he used to shout at the kids, then completely had that nervous breakdown. So, this was a constant pattern. And I got in touch with the family and I explained that there is a reason why he's getting triggered, and it's coming from the background. Let's start reducing the triggers that we're giving him. And this was just one example. We worked on a lot of things. And as we started solving his trigger points, his anger came down. The drug he was taking for his anxiety, doctor reduced the drug dose into half. And this I'm talking at the age of 70. He started feeling a lot more fresh. Because he was fresh, he was more able to do things that I wanted him to do, like make the changes in his lifestyle, change the food, do some exercise, maybe go for a walk. And it was not possible without me solving his problem, which was the root cause. That was constantly making him so agitated that he didn't want to do anything. But now that one section of triggers was out, he felt so much better that he started working on it. And it's almost 8 years now. He's not on insulin. His kidney function has improved. His
Wow.
cognitive health has improved. Also, hats off to the family who understood that he's coming from a different background and not add on to those triggers. So his panic attacks, his breakdowns, his anger has, has completely disappeared. And it's been 8 years. Every month in my account, he sends me a certain amount which he gives to all his daughters. So I am also a added daughter. And every month on the first, he sends that with a Google Pay note of Ashirwad. So this is what I have earned in my life. And, it's his way of telling me that I'm fine. I remember you and I remember your name. And I will remember this till I go to my grave. So working on the basics, and this only happened, Dr. Khushboo, because I was listening to him. If the practitioners, doctors start listening to what their patients are saying, they always have cues when they talk. They always have cues, and they have a reason why they are behaving in a certain way. So it's easy to say patients are non-compliant. I've seen so many doctors writing it on the prescription that patients are non-compliant. I'm sorry, they're not. There's something that's going on, and it's important to get to that. It can be very nasty, it can be very ugly. It's almost like putting your hand in a garbage bin to figure out something. But maybe we might help that person and get that person even 1% peace in this life. We won't even imagine what it is to be with constant OCDs, constant triggers. It's so draining. It's terrible when a person is going through this. So I was so happy, and until date, touch wood, he's hale and hearty. He's off all his medications except the one which he takes for his kidney. And eye has improved. Everything's better because he's feeling better. So lifestyle wouldn't have made any sense if we did not work on his cognition. We did not work on how his brain behaves, what his attention is, what he feels. So that was one beautiful case, and I will always remember this because he taught me that patience is the key. If
Hmm.
you're patient, if you listen, you're going to be fine. And that's what I learned from him. And this was so beautiful. And 8 years, yeah, I still remember. And 8 years, every day, every month, first, my message rings in the morning. And that's it. I know that he's fine. I know he's somewhere remembering me, and dementia has not taken over him. So that's beautiful. And the
So
second
I
case is of
wanted
the
to
20.
ask,
Yes, Dr. Kushbu, sorry.
how long did it take to reverse?
About 3 months.
Wow.
About 3 months. About
Wow.
3 months.
Wow. That is
So
amazing.
so so the good part is the patients get better faster than how many years they have taken to decline. Also, in his case, I had an added advantage of him being an army officer. So if you tell him to do this, that means he will do this. There's
Yes.
no deviation from there. And thanks to the beautiful family support, not pressing on his trigger button was very important, without which we wouldn't have done it. So it was a beautiful teamwork. And in 3 months, his cognitive function, and I also do a questionnaire or test, which I ask the patient and I give it to the family members too, because I need to know both perspectives, that what actually happens once I'm off the call or once I'm off with the patient.
Hmm.
And when the questionnaires match, that's where I know that the things are going on the right track. So this is a quantitative way for me to keep a track, apart from whatever patients and the family is sharing. These questionnaires, which I keep taking in terms of cognitive decline every month, helps me know whether I'm on the right track or no. And then I do like an average of these three uh, papers, like questionnaires that I take. And then I decide, that this person needs me more than 3 months. don't need me more than 3 months. So yes, for his diabetes management, he still keeps asking me questions, and that's cool. But he has no burning question for me for the last 8 years. And that 3 months, he literally gave those 3 months to me. And I have been with him 24/7. So when he had panic attacks or any breakdowns, I was there on the call even in the middle of the night, because that's the support people going through cognitive decline require. If you hear them out, half of their problems are already solved. So that's the level of patience I did show it with him. Felt like giving up, to be very honest, because when when the panic attack was suddenly happened, maybe 2 months later, I felt everything has gone in vain. Yeah, no point. Yeah. Okay. So I started doubting on what I'm doing, but then I reminded myself that it's not about this. Imagine in 2 months, this is the first,
Hmm. Yes.
versus in 2 hours every panic attack. So that's progress. Let's not be so impatient and take a decision that it's not working. It's the patient at that age trying to work, and that's what really worked. So that was 3 months at the time.
Hmm.
And the second girl that I was working on was for about 6 months, because it came from a lot of childhood trauma
Hmm.
and a lot of body shaming, failures, binge eating, starving, binge purge episodes. So there were times where she was constantly eating. There were times where she was not eating because she'd gained that weight. So uh, it was a bit tricky case to begin with, and depression was cropping up. She was already taking a lot of anti-anxiety pills, sometimes overdosing on it, and her parents were really concerned. So when they came to me, I always have a habit of checking the past medical records, blood tests, and seeing if there is anything which is missing. So I went through the whole records and I realized that we have not checked this girl's hormones. So doctors are constantly prescribing her drugs for her anxiety, increase it, take the sleeping pill, and don't worry, and counseling. And it's easy to write at the end of the paper, right? Counseling recommended, diet and exercise needed. It just takes this much space on the page to write that. And she came to me via somebody, and I thought that her hormones would be out of whack. So I gave her the whole hormone test prescriptions, because it's important to know where is this coming from. If I'm also somebody who's applying butter on the top of the bread, then what's the point? She coming to me. There's so many people already applying butter on it. It's just one more butter I'm applying instead of understanding how the bread is made. So digged in back, asked her to get the blood test done, not ready to cooperate. She knew that, the life is going to end. And then I realized that, her main hormone, which causes PCOS. So there is PCOS and there is Cushing syndrome.
Hmm.
So these two, they look very alike, but
Okay.
they're not.
Hmm.
So that hormone triggered me that somewhere this is triggering her gut off. And because her gut is off, she is getting all kinds of symptoms and feeling that she cannot concentrate. There is something she always used to say that there's a cloud which is sitting on the top of her head. She can see a black cloud on the top of her head. So this
Hmm.
is the level which she was explaining me what she's going through. But when I asked her this question that uh, do you feel something off in your gut? Do you have acidity? Do you have constipation? She's like, yeah, but how is it? How does it matter? What do I have? I'm telling you, I have brain fog. So she was very adamant, obviously, because she's been to so many experts and nobody could help. And I really requested and she was on the underweight side. So I requested the parents that even though she's above 18 and she's an adult now, but we have to be a little bit strict with her and get her to a place where she actually starts eating, because her problem was that she was starving herself so much that she had starved her cells. Her brain was not getting enough glucose. She was not feeling like a normal human being and constantly depriving and obviously missing her menstrual cycles. And I worked with her on her gut. So I did like a gut reset program with her, for about 7 days. And I told parents to force feed, that literally force feed at a certain time, and she has to eat. Food is a medicine, and you will keep her in front of your eyes and make her eat. Parents said, we'll do whatever, we don't want to lose our daughter. And they started working on it, and literally she was crying. She wanted to purge, she wanted to throw out whatever she's eating. But I started talking to her that it's okay. If you gain the weight, I'm here, don't worry. In 4 days, her body language changed. So when I asked her in 4 days that, do you see the same cloud on your head? She said, what cloud are you talking about? So when she was talking to me, she was in such dark anorexia zone that her brain was blocked, the thinking capacity was blocked. And now that and she gained weight. In that 4 days, she gained about 2 kilos, which is what we wanted. And she said, what cloud are you talking about? So she completely forgot what symptoms she actually gave. And when I was sitting with the list, in 4 days, the list was half. So her entire concentration from that cloud will eat me, I will gain weight. Fifth day onwards, she started taking up the call and she said, this immunity broth is very delicious, doctor. Can I add this? Can I add that? So the parents started thinking that, कि इसके अंदर कुछ ऐसा जड़ी बूटी तो नहीं है that, she's already feeling that she's pumped up, she's charged up, and they never seen that high. In 7 days, she gained about 3.5 kilos. That changed things completely. Her hormones calmed down, her cognitive decline. It was on the verge of giving up. She was almost on the verge of suicide. And I literally told her parents that don't let her step out of the house and keep all the blades and everything away from the room. And there has to be somebody who's constantly watching her, no matter how uncomfortable it gets to her. And it took us 7 days to see the change. So I'm talking about this in 2019. This was 2019, and 2023, that girl is happily settled, got married in London, having, touch wood, a very happy married life. And her husband is very cooperative, and he understands when the wife is going through mood swings or maybe PMS. And he's also, understanding, because now she has started showing her emotions, which she was blocking under some space and not able to, go and access that part of her brain. Of course, I did take help of hypnotherapy. I did suggest some sessions because there was a childhood trauma which had taken over her completely. So that had to be addressed somewhere. That had to be resolved somewhere. We all go through, we not everybody is lucky to have a very blissful childhood. We all go through some kind of shit in our childhood, and somewhere in our brain, in our different sections of brain, we do store it. And when we are unable to have the control over that center which takes care of our emotions, it does go overboard. So we worked on it, and in 7 days, I think she was, I treated her only for 14 days. Okay, I did 1 week of the gut reset and then 1 week of just seeing how she's doing, and she's fine. She talks to me now. She's a very good friend of mine, and she was in Dubai like almost last month, and I was in Dubai too, and she hosted me beautifully, and I was so happy to see. And she's completely forgotten about what actually happened before she came to me, because she says, I don't want to remember that part, which was not helpful. So when you work on your gut, when you work on it in a particular way, combining with other therapies, if needed, if you believe in it, if you intuitively connect, it's not like Trishala is prescribing hypnotherapy, go and do hypnotherapy. No, you see if you intuitively connect with that person, if you actually want to do it, because your intuition really matters. If you don't feel like, no, I don't want to connect with this person, your intuition is right, your gut feeling is right. Just because it worked for me, it doesn't mean it will work for everybody. So that was important for me to take care, understand. And yeah, it does take a lot of back and forth, a lot of communication, listening, taking the backlashes. But somewhere I knew it's going to work, and it did. So yeah, these two are some cases which always remains with me. And yeah.
Wow, it was like I am just sitting here and listening to us like two stories, and it's actually playing in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
Like I was able to visualize the way you narrated the whole thing. But sadly, this is the reality of a lot of people. It's not just a story. It's actually the reality. Yeah, so really hats off, and I'm really glad that we do have a few doctors like you who really work to the root cause and find out what the exact problem is.
Yeah. I've stopped calling myself a doctor. I've started calling myself as a coach who is going to be listening to you, who will be with you, and I'm here. I'm just a human being with a little bit more experience in life. But I think my experience doesn't even matter what a person is going through.
Hmm.
It's about that person. I always remind myself this thing. And my patient, I was obviously we all have low times, right? We all go through phases where we feel like, what are we doing? Kya kar rahe? Kya ho raha hai? We all have that questions. And I just want to tell my listeners that it's okay to feel that. Even we go through it very frequently, maybe more than you. We always questions our self-worth, and we question that what are we doing? Where are we? And I had one bad day, and my patient asked me this कि आप हमेशा एक चीज याद रखो that will you do the same thing when God comes in front of you? And
Hmm.
I said, yeah, I will not change. I
Hmm.
will consult in the same way. I will say exactly the same thing when God comes in front of me. So she said, when the answer is you will not change, that means you're doing nothing wrong. You're
Hmm.
doing it right. So always remind yourself that it's God in front of me and I will still continue doing the same. So attention span is something which is less for everybody. So keeping it short and crisp
Yes. Yes.
helps to just register. I think we can just quickly discuss about the resources where
Yes.
people can actually take help. So definitely, there are books to read if people love, and I have some specific books that I recommend to patients or send images of particular pages that I want them to read. So one is The Placebo. The second one is The New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. These books are living energies, and if you're reading this book, you can feel the book is talking to you. It's
Wow.
very
Okay.
powerful.
Hmm.
So if you have not read these, start with The New Earth first. It's very very beautiful,
Hmm.
and then it's The Placebo,
Hmm.
and there is another book which is Keep Your Brain Alive. 83 neurobic exercises to prevent memory loss and increase mental fitness by Lawrence and Manning. It's also a very handy book which people can go. And since it's the world of technology, we have a lot of applications that are now supporting improvement in cognitive health or mental exercises. So
Hmm.
one is the Lumosity, Lumosity. This offers a lot of brain training games, which is specifically targeting in improvement in the cognitive function. So
Hmm.
I recommend my patients to download the app and at least finish or play one game in the middle of their busy schedule. So instead of scrolling through Instagram when they're coming back from work, play one of the games. And I have seen people feeling better and at least have lesser brain fog, and the need for caffeine has come down after downloading this application. So
Hmm.
Lumosity is very nice. The second one, which is very famous, is the Headspace app. It's a popular meditation and a mindfulness app. So there are paid things, but there are also a lot of free things, which is quite beneficial. The other one is Calm application I personally use and I love it. And it actually helps me center myself from a busy day at work. So instead of taking all my worries and so being so overwhelmed to bed, I do use Calm app to feel better. And I think the best resource and the best antidepressant is go get out in sun, get that sunlight
Hmm.
uh, on your face, soak that energy. If possible, if you have access to a garden, or a place where you can stand barefoot, soak sun there. And I'm telling this to you from my personal experience. I was in a bad state last year, and I have no uh, ego in accepting that post COVID, especially post second wave, when I was down with a very bad COVID, I felt my cognitive decline had already started. My mood was, so I
Mm.
am somebody who's always very chirpy and bubbly, and I'll always keep talking and be happy go lucky types. I don't really stress out. But post COVID, things did change, and the uncertainty of life certainly took on me, and everything shifted from home, work from home, workout from home. I stopped going out. So
Mm.
I didn't even remember when was the last time I saw sun. And that's when my brother, who's also a doctor, recommended that you need to get out and get the sun. And this was an advice which I always give to my patients, but I forgot about me.
Hmm.
And I started soaking in, and my mood instantly changed. So
Hmm.
get the sunlight. Please go out, stand barefoot. If you are in India, please take the sun bath before 8 a.m. Otherwise, the UV rays can really kill you. Please don't go and take the sun bath with the sunscreen on. Please don't do that. Let the skin absorb as much as sunlight possible. This is one thing which I've seen, that people wear the sunscreen and then go out and take the sun bath. So that's not recommended. Second is, please work out,
Hmm.
indulge in some kind of physical activity. It is your natural antidepressant. You will see that your mood is changing when you involve in some kind of physical activity. There are so many options available now. It's not restricted to go to the gym or get on the treadmill. No, you can get into kickboxing once your physiotherapist has given you a go ahead that you're ready and you're fit to do it. Get into Pilates, get into yoga, move, move. That is going to help you a lot better than any other medicines. Apart from that, adding in a certain strain of probiotic supplement also really works. So get in touch with a healthcare provider who can explain and give you a cocktail of different probiotic strains that can help the cognitive decline improve. There are also a lot of supplements now available over the counter, but I will not recommend people taking that without any help from a professional. Even though it's available over the counter, everything that you see on the shelf is not something that you can consume. No matter if it's written as stress booster, it's written as some booster, brain improvement, you always need to get in touch with the person who has spent that much years to learn and study about this. A lot of cases about toxicity is now coming up with these supplements which are not regulated. So I'll strongly advise that if you plan to get anything in your diet which is not natural food, please get in touch with somebody who knows about it, who is a registered practitioner. Please always do your background check. Where is that person, or anybody who's recommending, any influencer who's recommending, who is giving you the advice? Because these things might just feel a supplement, but in long term, it can affect on a lot of different things. So just getting in touch, and please take help. There is help available around. There are doctors, practitioners who are there to help you. So
Hmm.
don't feel that I have to do this on your own. No, you don't. Get in touch with a neurophysiotherapist, get your cognitive health
Hmm.
checked, understand, at least have that first consultation that, this is something that I'm going through. It's not necessary that you have to go to a physiotherapist only when you are in pain, or you have to see when you have some kind of issue. Normal, healthy individual who suddenly forgetting things should also get in touch with the neurophysio to understand where this could be coming from. And a lot, I'm sure, Dr. Khushboo, you can add a lot of value to prevent what you have already been seeing in your cases. So I think just working on these basics under registered practitioner is my key uh, takeaway key from this podcast.
Amazing. So, thank you so much for imparting your knowledge on this very important aspect of cognition. Because, as they say, that the cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, is now said to be more of a lifestyle disease than just
Type 3
you know
diabetes.
type 3 diabetes, yeah, rather than something which is just genetic or something. It's more of a lifestyle disease, which is playing the lifestyle is playing a role on the genetic aspect of it. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge of about all of that. And I really hope that together we can help a lot of patients, and we can help a lot of individuals in preventing something from happening in the first place. So that was the main idea behind doing this episode, that we want to first prevent something like this from happening to an individual. So वो एक मेंटालिटी होता है ना कि जब तक वो एकदम इस लेवल तक नहीं आ जाता, people actually don't go out and take help. So until and unless it doesn't come to an extreme level, they don't. But it's really important that they should start taking care right at the prevention aspect of it. So yeah, it was lovely talking to you, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khushboo, for having me on board. It was a pleasure speaking to you, and I'm so glad and I'm so happy today that we have other practitioners as well who are taking care and wants to prevent this, because we don't want patients very sick. I'm very happy to see healthy individuals improving rather than seeing a person who's deteriorating every single day. And ये बोलना आसान है कि अरे ये तो मेरे जेनेटिक्स में था, इसलिए मुझे होना ही था. आई थिंक इट्स वेरी आउटडेटेड नाउ. जेनेटिक्स में है, लेकिन consider this as a gun which you have got in your DNA, but trigger is still in your hands. So it's important for you to decide when do you want to press the trigger. And if there is Alzheimer's or Parkinson's in the family, you have a trigger to delay it, working on different aspects of your lifestyle. Please, please, please take help and take care of yourselves. And yeah, it was amazing having doing this with you, Dr. Khushboo. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to reach the masses, and I hope we do this again. We talk on lot other topics and just help people and help them listen to this. Thank you so much, Dr. Khushboo.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this podcast, this episode of Cognition with Dr. Trishala Chopra. If you like this episode, then please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. This podcast releases one episode per month on Spotify and YouTube as well. So please share it with your family and friends who you think can benefit from this particular episode. Thank you.